Hi, this is Jim over at Cherry Logistics. In the video we're going to go through is going to relate to the services that service providers report to Cherry Logistics for all the different services, and how to view and manage those in the Cherry Logistics web portal for our service providers. So let's go ahead and take a look at that information. We're going to log in as the test provider of Black Dirt Plowing Company. Log into the system, and then we're going to navigate to the service history screen. So we go to services and then service history. So you can see this screen looks very similar to the other screens that have columns of records. As we go across the screen here, we have selector buttons here that we can select each individual service report. We can select them all by clicking the top box here or deselecting them. And then we have the customer's name in this column, the customer's location ID, and then the reported column is actually how that service was reported. If it says online next to the service, then that was the service that was reported online through the Cherry web portal. If it has numbers in here, these numbers indicate miles. These are actually miles away from the location where the service was reported from their mobile app. So when you see 0.0 or 0.1, that means it was reported exactly on that customer's location. When it starts to get a little bit more further out than that, that usually indicates that their GPS coordinates might be off a little bit. The mobile device might have not the correct location ID, or those services just were not reported at that customer's location. This next column here is the service report number. These are unique numbers given to each service report. The ticket number column is for customers who still require some type of ticketing, and that number wouldn't be listed in this column here. Category is the main category identification for the service. So we have snow, lot sweeping, it could be landscaping, power washing, lot portering, that type of thing. And the subcategory just relates to the category for. So for snow, you could have several subcategories. You can have parking lot plow, parking lot ice control, building and public walk shovels, for example. And then the full of part services are for to identify whether the service was a full or a part for customers that have service agreements that allow part services to be performed. The amount is actually the amount of inches serviced for snow services. The time and date is the actual time and date given for the actual service. SC tracking number, these are for service reports for CVS that are associated with the Seawall app when they're submitted through the mobile app that CVS offers. And then the column here is bill number is your invoice number once that service has been processed and invoiced. The status is the current status of the work order. There are several statuses. The most common are either going to be reported. It's still in a reported status. It's given some time for the service provider to go in and make and review it, and then make any necessary corrections if they need to. And then it goes through a validation process to make sure everything, all the criteria are met for the service, and then it gets passed to a validated service if everything passes fine. And then once it's validated, it gets processed for payment. And then the last column here is the customer's address for the location being serviced. The other functions on this screen are, again, similar functions that we've seen on past screens. We have the roll indicator. So again, we can expand out the number of rows that are visible on the screen, and we have the page selector to choose different pages of records as the service reports grow in number. We also have the time zone option here. So if we had a customer that's in a different time zone, by clicking this, you would see the time zone indicators for the actual times for each of the different time zones that you service. There's the quick search feature. So typing anything in the quick search button is just another filter, and clicking the icon. Now everything that has ADMO, in this case ADMO customer, comes up in the records, and we can see that there's 69 records that have that criteria in there. So that's the quick search feature. And then you have the advanced search features up here. So again, more filter options to be able to filter on any of the information found within each of the columns. And then you have the column headers that could be sorted on the columns. The default is always going to be sorted by the time and date of the service. So typically with this default, the most current service will always be showing in the top record. We have a add service report here. So again, services can be created and submitted on the portal. If there was no service needed, let's say it was a snow event and the snow never materialized, and your company was called out for dispatch for services, you can report that no service was needed. And you can also export these records to an Excel document, similar to what we've seen in the past on other videos that have the export feature. You can fill out some criteria here, drill down to specific records if you wanted to see it. So if we wanted to just see, say, snow records, apply that filter. Again, you see the filtered criteria in the cloud area up here, and now all the records below just reflect the snow services, and you can tell that there's 354 snow services out of a total entries of 435 services. So you can drill down even further by saying just the ones that are reported on the app, online, specific dates, specific statuses, if you wanted to view just the specific status for that. So we'll just go ahead and show you what this export looks like. So the export all is what you want for the export all the records. You have the capability of also selecting some service reports with photos in there, and if you wanted to export the pictures of those services, you have that option here with export photos. So let's first go through the exporting of the records. So we'd go ahead and click export all. Again, depending on how your browser manages downloads, ours just goes right up to this arrow up here, and then once it's done, it opens up Excel for us. So now we see all those selected snow services in an Excel document, and then from there we can filter and categorize the information however we would like it to be. So we can take a look at it by customer and graph it out if we wanted to see if the how it looks by customer, those snow services, to see who's our most active customer for services. You can take a look at it by statuses, and then go ahead and do the same thing with the statuses of the service reports and graph it out to see where you're at as far as reported services, invoice, and validated services. So again, exporting it out gives you a lot of good ways to look at the information and help you manage that information for your company. To get rid of the filter, you can just go ahead and click on the blue X in this cloud area, or you can just click on remove filter, and that'll remove all the filters here, or you can do it individually by just the X. So as we talked about statuses for the service reports, there's quite a few statuses. We'll just kind of run through a couple of them just to give you an overview, so we can look at the different types of status right through the filter here. So a created status is something that has been created in the web portal, but it has not been submitted to us. For some reason you're holding on to it, maybe to see, check with a driver or something to make sure that that service is indeed a correct service. And then once you are sure of that, you need to submit it. There's a submit button that will go through, but Cherry will not have visibility to those services that are created until they are actually submitted with that submit button to us. A reported service is just that. It's been reported. It's still going through the validation process. It's still going through the timeline for service providers to make ability to make some corrections to them. So it's still in a reported status. Validated status means that, again, everything, all the criteria met, it's now on its process to get paid. Invoice service is just that. It's been invoiced out, and paid is a similar service. It's a different criteria for some different categories. Disputed is a status where the customer will dispute that service in the system. They also have access to the portal to see some information of their services, and if they don't think something looks right, they can go ahead and have the opportunity to dispute it, and Cherry will investigate the dispute. Corrected. This is something that service providers or Cherry can do. They can submit a request for a correction. So if you see something not right with the service that's reported, you have a day or two to go through those services before they become validated and make some corrections to it. That'll send it to Cherry. We'll review those requests for corrections, and if we have any questions, we'll call you, or we'll just, if they make sense, we'll just go ahead and submit the corrections through. Not valid service is just that, it's not valid. And when you can identify that in the service history, as all of that text will be highlighted and read across the record to indicate that the service was not valid. Could be a duplicate, could be a mistake, that type of thing. Could not provide a service. That's a status where the provider goes out and for some reason it might be a gated situation and the gates were locked by the property owner and the service provider didn't have access. So that's an example of the service. The provider went out to do the service and just couldn't perform the service because of conditions on the property. There was no fault to the service provider. Submitted to customer is a status that actually causes a delay in the system. This is for CVS customers. When you report services for CVS, you have to use the Seawall app, and if the Seawall app is not used, if it's reported on the portal or it's reported on Cherry mobile app by mistake, then it has to go through a whole different process to get submitted to CVS for verification and clarification of why it wasn't reported correctly and that type of thing. So it goes through a submitted to customer status, and again, that usually causes a pretty substantial delay in the system for that service report. And then no service needed is, again, probably more pertains to snow services. You were dispatched out to a location because of a pending snow event, and it just didn't materialize, or it didn't materialize to the extent that everyone thought it was going to be. And when that driver got on the property, there was no need for a servicing. So you can go ahead and report a service to Cherry and even attach some photos that no service was needed to indicate that information. So those are all the different statuses for a service report to be in. Again, the most common ones you're going to find are valid and not valid. Just to give you an idea of what that not valid looks like, so I just filtered on all the not valid services. So you'll see in red that these services were ended up being a not valid service for, again, could be several reasons. They were entered by mistake, they were entered as a duplicate, that type of thing. So let's look at some of the services in service history. So let's take a look at snow services, and we'll take a look at services that were reported on a mobile app, so we can take a look at some photos here. And I just want validated services. So now we have all those criteria. We have snow services reported on the app that are just valid. So that's the criteria that we're looking at. We can see there's 14 of those records out of 435, and then here's our list of records here. So if we wanted to see the details associated with these services, then we can just go ahead and open up this information by clicking on the menu and then selecting View Details. So now we see a lot of good information specific to the service report. We see the customer information, we see the provider name here, we see the date and time the service was performed. We know that it's been submitted on the mobile app, so it's been submitted in real time, that the provider is compliant by reporting services in real time for the customer. We know that a couple ways. We know that the date and time of service is very close to the date and time that it was created on, as opposed to being a day or two or hours later being reported on the portal. We also know that it was reported on the app because we have the GPS coordinates. So we have the longitude and latitude numbers here, and then we have the distance away from the location, so we know that the service was reported dead on that customer's location. We have the services that were reported for any increments amount. They were listed in here. We have the current status for each of these service reports. They've already passed validation on 3 of them that have been validated. This 4th one here for a 2.5-inch plow, it's saying that no event was found for this particular amount of snow that was reported for this event. And the reason we can look at that a little more specifically is you'll have the event information here. This comes right from the National Weather Service reporting station for this customer's location that was reported on. We know it'll tell us that the event started at this date and time, it ended at this date and time, and this was the recorded accumulation of inches. So with the National Weather Service saying the event was captured for this amount of snow, and the service report coming in at this amount of snow, there's additional validation going on here. That's why this snowplow report for 2.5 inches has not been validated yet. So again, by opening up that detail, we see a lot of good information for that service report. We can just go ahead and arrow back, and we'll go back to the service history screen. Again, all our records, all our filters in place here. If I wanted to look at additional records here, let's look at something current that was just reported, and we can go ahead and look at the detail on this report. So this is a very current report. We can see that, again, by the GPS, it was reported right on site. We also know that it was reported on the mobile app by the GPS coordinates telling us that, and the service date and created date. But this service does not have an event, so the event has not been created yet for this. The information has not been from the National Weather Service hasn't been collected, so the event information isn't here. So we know it's still a relatively new service that was reported, so it's in the timeline where the service provider can submit a correction. So we have the opportunity here to submit corrections to this service report by go ahead and clicking on that menu item. So when we do that, the submit correction box comes up, gives us the information for the customer's location, the service report number, and then the subcategory that was reported. In this case, it was building and public walk snow shovel. And here you have 3 choices. Why do you need to submit a correction for this service? Three choices to choose from. The service was either misreported and needs to be canceled completely. The service is a duplicate, which will make it invalid, or you need to correct some details about this service report. So if you select the 3rd one and click next, you're going to change some details, then you have the opportunity here to see the original state of the reporting service, and then the opportunity if there was an incorrect date and time for it. The subcategory remains the same. I'm sorry, the subcategory could be changed to different subcategories, and then you can change the amount of snow that was serviced there from the 18 inches. We encourage you to include some comments to this correction to give us some guidance on why you're entering the correction, and then you can go ahead and submit that to Cherry. Cherry will then review that. If they have any questions or concerns, they will reach out and contact you. If not, it makes sense that what the corrections were, especially if this was 88 inches and they meant to submit 18 inches, we can obviously makes much more sense to us, and we'll just go ahead and approve those corrections. And once we have that information, it'll process through and then hopefully get it to a validated status. So that's how you would submit corrections. And then the other 2 options, the first one obviously is pretty simple. You're just looking for it to be canceled for whatever reason. Maybe 2 people reported the same service, that type of thing. The same thing with a duplicate. We'll just get that information to us that you're requesting that service to be canceled, or you're saying that service is a duplicate. And then again, just go ahead and put your comments in the comment area to help us understand the situation more. So that's the service detail. Again, it gives a lot of good information, gives you a lot of good understanding of what's going on with that service and what we're looking at. And there also has the attachment page here. Also, clicking on attachments lets you see the photos that were submitted with this service. So you have the before photo, again taken with the mobile app. You can view that attachment. You can download it. You do have the thumbnail view, but if you wanted a larger view, you can just go ahead and click on it and see the details of that parking lot when the guys pulled up. If you wanted to see the after photo, you can view that attachment also, looking at the view of what the property looked like after they were done servicing it. And again, keep in mind that the customers have the same access. They see the same information. It's total transparency between the service providers, the customer, and Cherry Logistics. So they see all the photos, they see all the timestamps, they see the statuses, they see the services, how they're reported, they see the weather event information, they see the GPS to let them know that service was reported right at their location. So keep that in mind as you're reporting these services, that again, it's total transparency to everybody. Everybody sees the same information. So if we go back to the main service history screen, I'm going to remove these filters. I'm going to hide the advanced search features. Now we have a couple options that we can do. We talked about the export function, but we also have the option to export photos that were taken. So again, you can look at them individually. When you see these camera icons in the service, you can open it up, go to that attachment screen, and view those photos individually with each service. Or you can select the photos for the services that have the icon that you specifically want to see, and select as many as you need to on the screen. Then go ahead and click on Export Pictures. And then what that will do is that will open up a file folder with all those photos in there. So you can look at each individual photo just like you did by the service, but now you have them in a file folder to see every single photo. And again, if you need to store them somewhere or attach them somewhere, you have all the different options available there by having those photos available. When you're done, you can just go ahead and deselect those buttons, and that will take that away. The other option you have here is to report a no service needed. So if you were reporting a no service needed, you would just go ahead and click on this button here. You would identify who the customer is. You would put in the location, and then the date that you went out there and the time. If there was a ticket number associated with it, then you would go ahead and enter that ticket number. The mandatory field are identified by these asterisks, as for why it was not reported live on the mobile app, and it gives you some specific items to check for what happened here. So again, if the driver didn't have a smartphone, then you can add notes. This temporary driver didn't have his phone, whatever the case may be. And then go ahead and click Save, and that will generate a no services needed for that service report, and it looks very similar to a service report. So again, our system's telling us that you did go out and dispatch. We did go out and have you dispatched, and after you reviewed the property, there was no service that was needed. You can even attach photos if you had them to go ahead and show us the property conditions that the services were not necessary. The other function you have here is to add a service report. Again, we really, based on the customer agreements that we have with our customers, the correct way to submit services on the mobile app. But we understand technology doesn't always work the way we'd like it to, so there's a potential there that it may not on some locations. So we give you the opportunity to submit the services online through the portal. So once you click that Add Service Report, it brings you to this blank Add Service Report screen. And again, you would just start typing in the customer's name. It'll find it based on the contracts that are associated with your company. You can go ahead and select it. Same thing with the location, the date and time the service was reported. So we'll use the 17th, and then we'll select the time here by clicking that clock icon. And then again, we can up and down, or if we just click the number, then we'll have all the numbers available to us. That's the same thing with the minutes. We can select the minutes, we can select AM or PM. Once we have the correct information in there, we move on to the next one. Again, if we needed to enter a ticket number, we'll enter a reason for why it was not submitted on the mobile app correctly, and then again, any notes that we wanted to add. Once we have all the information on the top few fields entered, we'll go ahead and save that. And then the categories will open up for the services that you want to report. Now these will be specific to your contract. So the only services you will be allowed to report are specific services based on the customer's scope and service agreement for this customer's location. So when you click on Add Service, these will only be the services available for this location. In this particular one, we only have the lot portering, lot sweeping, and the turf mowing. So if we wanted to enter them all, we can go ahead and click the top button to highlight all the services, or we can just take each one individually and go ahead and submit those. If there was an option for a full or part service, if it was a snow service, then you would be able to click in here to choose whether you would need to report a full or a part. Go ahead and save your information. So now you see the two services in the created status. They have not been submitted. So again, we have the created time and date here, which shows us it was different than we were saying the service was performed on this date, but when we actually reported on the portal, it's coming in on this date and time. So unless the submit button is selected when we're ready to submit that service, again, Cherry will not have visibility to these services, and we won't be able to process these for payment. So you can still make some corrections here by viewing the service or deleting the service. Once you view the service, then you can still make the changes to the service if you needed to make any changes to it or add an additional service there. Go ahead and save your changes. Now your services are updated, and then once everything is to your satisfaction, you can go ahead and click submit. If there is photos you need to attach to it, you can just go ahead and click the attachment screen here. There's nothing associated with the service report right now, but go ahead and click on Add Attachments, and the attachment screen comes up. It's similar to what we've seen before in the past, so you can click on Add Files to browser through your computer looking for the photo that you're looking to attach, or you can drag and drop the photo from your desktop right into the gray area here. Click on Upload, and then go ahead and give your photo a name, and select the file type as photo and save it. Now the thumbnail appears along with the information of the record, and again you have the option to either download it as an attachment or view a larger photo of that or larger view of that photo. Go ahead and close that attachment screen, and now you're back to the main attachment area. You can go ahead and click on Details. That'll bring you back to your service report details, and then go ahead and submit your services. And then it'll ask you, are you sure you want to submit these? Once submitted, you may not be able to change it after a certain amount of time. So click on yes, and now your services are listed in here that we've entered today. So we have the no service needed was reported for 5/17, and then we have the lot sweeping and portering that we also, so we can go ahead and view those records that we just entered. Again, it's waiting to, you have until May 19th to submit any corrections by selecting it and submitting the correction if you needed to. You can again view your attachments here for the thumbnail or the larger view. And again, so we encourage you to go into the service history screen, review all the services that are in there, especially in the reported status, so that if you still have time and you see that information, that there's still time before we begin to process it and validate, go through the validation process. That'll be indicated here in these validation notes that you have until this date to go through the deadline of May 19th to make those corrections to the service. So again, we encourage you to go through, make sure everything looks right on your end, and then make any necessary requests for changes if that's the case. If you go through your services and you have any questions and it has timed out, let's go to an older service here. This is from May 8th to view details. This is for a parking lot ice control, and then as you wanted to submit corrections to it, it'll give you an error message saying that it's already past its time to make corrections. We only have so much time to work with before we have to start processing it for payment for the customer and for our service provider. So once the clock times out, you will not have access to change that service, but just contact Cherry Logistics if there is an issue with that, and we can help walk through that to make any corrections you need to make in the process. So that's the service history screen. I know there was a lot of information there. I hope you found this useful. If again you have any questions or concerns about the services in the service history screen that you've submitted to Cherry Logistics, please don't hesitate to give us a call. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks.